whenever you have a durable asset, not just are there two notions of quantity, there's two notions of price. And this is equally important. And I talked about this a bit, maybe last time, maybe it was the time before. There's the rental price, which is what I pay to use an asset for a single period of time. And there's a capital price, which is what I pay to purchase the asset and have the right to the asset for its entire life. Okay, those are the two prices, right? Rental price is like use for a period. Capital price is use for as long as the asset lasts. All right? Still going to depreciate. I got to take that into account, but I'm going to get to use it as long as it lasts. Okay? Now, it's important to realize that neither one of these has anything to do with the form of the contract I have. That even if I'm buying a house, quote, because I purchased the house, take a mortgage and all the rest, there's still going to be an implied rental price. The transaction might be a capital price transaction, but there's a rental price. Similarly, in a world in which I rent, there's an implied capital price. So when I talk about rental prices and capital prices, I'm not talking about prices paid by people who rent and prices paid by people who buy. I'm going to think about, no, rental price is the market price through any transaction method for using the asset for a period. Capital price is the price of acquiring the asset for the rights to its entire life. Everybody get the distinction? This is not about the form of contract. This is not about like, well, the apartments are renting and the houses are selling. No, it's like every asset's going to have these two prices. And it's important to always, when you think about durable assets, get clear in your mind. When you're talking quantities, are you talking I or K? And when you're talking prices, are you talking, I'll call this R, and I'll call this PT. It's important to recognize whether you're talking about R or P. And I mentioned this the other day when I was talking about different depreciation rates of assets. Now, you can go back and forth, just like we can go back and forth for between I and K here, right? To go back and forth between I and K, we have KT equals 1 minus delta KT minus 1 plus IT. But he agrees with that, right? Then I have, or I could write KT equals IT plus 1 minus delta IT minus 1 plus dot, 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 dot. Okay? That would be our perpetual inventory. I can do the same thing here. I can write RT equals PT. So how could I rent an asset effectively in a world in which I only buy and sell? The answer is, well, I buy it now, I pay PT, and I would sell it next year. When I sold it, it's going to have depreciated by amount delta, so I got to depreciate the asset, because this is going to be the price of a new one next year. I buy a new one now, next year I sell an old one. It's a year older than it was today. So this is the price of a new one. This is the price of the year-old one next year. This is the new one next year. The year-old one's going to sell at a discount. The discount's 1 minus delta, and I don't get my money for a year, so I got to discount it back by 1 plus the interest rate. Got to put it in present value. Okay? So that can be rewritten as R plus RPT plus delta PT plus 1 plus PT minus PT plus 1 all over 1 plus R. And this is a way to think about how you determine the rental price of a capital asset. You would say the applied rent for a capital asset is the interest cost of my investment. This is what I paid to invest in the asset. That's the money I could have put in the bank. Right? That's the interest cost. This is the physical depreciation of the asset. It's going to depreciate. I got to take that into account. And this is what I would call reevaluation. The asset's going to get reevaluated between this year and next year. Okay? So the asset is going to change in value for those reasons. Okay? People see how that works. All right? Those are the three terms. And all those are expressed in next year's dollars. That's why they get divided by 1 plus R. Okay? Those are all in next year's dollar. The bank would have paid me the interest cost next year. If my asset hadn't depreciated, I would have sold it next year, right? And I realized the capital loss next year. So they're all in next year's dollars. That's why they get discounted by 1 plus R. Okay? Another way to look at this equation is just write it as, well, there's two ways to buy. I could either go out and buy it today, or I could rent it forever. And the equivalent of that is RT plus 1 minus delta over 1 plus R, RT plus 1 plus 1 minus delta squared over 1 plus R squared, RT plus 2. That's just, and then this is really, these two equations, say here and here, are really just an analog of these two equations. They're just looking forward, because while the capital stock I have is a backward-looking concept, right? The amount of capital I have today is a function of what happened in the past. The capital price of an asset is a function of what's going to happen in the future. What people think today is going to happen down the road, right? That's what's going to determine today's capital value.